This is Karen Shaneman. Carmen Bowman and I would love to welcome you to the video called Artifacts of Culture Change, Frequently Asked Questions. So how long does it take to complete the Artifacts of Culture Change? The Artifacts tools, both the 2.0 and the one for assisted living, are both lengthy. So the Culture Change Committee should decide how to proceed to complete the tool they select. It's likely that committee members will individually need to study it and its guidance pages before beginning group discussions. We expect it'll take several meetings to agree on practices, and then after the tool is filled out, discussion then can turn in the Culture Change Committee to what practices would we like to implement.
Hi, Carmen here. So the next question, why do you recommend that an interdisciplinary team be involved in completing the tool? This is actually so important. We've learned over the 15 years of Artifacts completion that not everyone agrees, or should I say, knows the same information. Let's say an administrator thinks a practice exists, but it doesn't. A funny story comes out of Florida years ago. The administrator said, yes, residents can get a bath or shower whenever they want, but CNA said, no, they can't. No one gets a shower or a bath on Wednesday. And when everyone asked why, no one even knew. I think it is a sad yet valid example of what goes on in institutions. So learn to ask lots of questions, namely why, and remember to protect and promote the rights of residents, for instance, to get a bath on a Wednesday if that's what they want.
So what if our team or Culture Change Committee can't come to a consensus as to whether a practice is fully or partially implemented? You know, there are some practices on the tool that may require some research before coming to a definitive answer. Those items can be set aside and a plan made to gather more information. This may be especially true if some say that, yes, we have fully implemented this practice, but others say it's not actually happening at all. Those disagreements are a big reason why an interdisciplinary committee is a best practice rather than just having an individual leader complete the tool. Because these discussions can lead to finding out what is actually happening on different shifts and different floors or households.
What should we do with the results? Wow, when you actually get through the entire tool and find out what culture change practices you don't have and which you only partially have, that is the goal. The tool and process are designed for you to then enjoy choosing the next practices your community wants to implement. So you would identify these practices that you don't have, or the ones that you only have to a certain degree. You would then pick which come to the top of the list, so to speak. You could make a wider sweep as well, asking in community meetings, for instance. Or you could use learning circles to pick the next practice in your committee. What I see is that whichever practices seem to be needed next, let's say, just naturally bubble to the top. So you end up hearing various individuals saying, ooh, let's pick that one. They end up identifying the very same practice. And certainly you could have a vote as well. Most likely you'll want to develop a project team or project teams if you choose more than one practice. And then remember, at each practice or each item on the tool at the Pioneer Network website, we have links to resources for every single practice that had any resources to be shared. So divvy out anything you find. Have everyone study and think and come to the table with what they learned and their ideas. You could use learning circles in project teams as well to honor what each person thinks, to honor their ideas, and always to learn from one another. And to be honest, implementation goes faster this way.
Some ask, how do we prioritize practice changes that we want to make after we've completed the Artifacts tool? Well, some practice changes are simple to make, like adding a section on culture change in performance evaluations for all team members and managers. Other items will take research, such as the item on moving toward regular diets instead of automatically giving each new resident a medical diet. The dining practice standards on the Pioneer Network website make it clear that for elders in long-term care, medical diets don't do much good and cause much frustration and sometimes even weight loss. So there's a stage of learning about how to implement a complex change before actions can be taken. Some changes will be more costly than others, and financing might not be available right now. When you complete the artifacts tool, it should be apparent which changes are easy and can be done right away, and which would come next or sometime later.
Our home is exclusively memory care. Does this still apply to us? And which version should we use? So every home, no matter how big or small, can use these tools. And yes, absolutely, it applies to memory care. And if you represent a nursing home, use Artifacts 2.0. If you represent an assisted living, use Artifacts Assisted Living.
What if we're a CCRC, that is a multi-level provider, and we want to complete the tool for all parts of the community? Well, we say if you have a nursing home section in your setting, use Artifacts 2.0, which is aimed at nursing homes. If you have an assisted living portion, try to use the artifacts for assisted living. Basically, it's up to the Culture Change Committee to determine which tool is a better choice, and if you want to complete it for either nursing home or assisted living sections or the whole place.
We are an independent living community. Can we still use this tool? And which version should we use? You know, independent living is really not long-term care because care is not provided. So we suggest looking at either tool to simply learn practices you would like to implement. For instance, all team members engage in culture change and resident-directed living, or performance evaluations including culture change, or replacing institutional language, and there are many others. And probably consider using the Artifacts of Culture Change Assisted Living, as it would be closer to the independent living culture than the nursing home version.
So how is the ACC 2.0 different from the first version, the original Artifacts tool? And where did the Outcomes section go that used to be on that original tool? Well, during the development project, we had some users of the original Artifacts wondering what changed between the original and the new one. So we created a video to explain it. You can view the video, ACC Original and 2.0. What's the difference?
How do we know if we are successful when we implement new practices and policies? You know, homes and communities often implement new policies and procedures all the time, such as a new pressure ulcer treatment. So just use your same method to gauge success with culture change practices. We recommend you keep everyone in the loop. Ask lots of questions, ask for feedback. Sometimes homes include a forum for feedback for implementing culture change practices, and they do that right in their daily community meeting, which itself is a culture change artifact.
So why are there some CMS F-tag references included for some practices? Well, in the 2.0 tool for nursing homes, there are references to CMS guidelines, which a lot of people call the F-tags, that relate to some of the practices on the tool. The reason that CMS has some related language in their guidelines is that CMS has been keeping up with the culture change movement for many years, and they have developed supportive language in their guidance. For example, there's a section in the nutrition guidance about liberalizing diets. The F-tag references are there, so the committee using the 2.0 tool can go review the CMS guidelines to see this related language and support for the item that they're working on. Because assisted livings are licensed by states, there are no CMS references in the Assisted Living Artifacts tool.
Here are two similar questions. We always have snacks on hand if a resident asks, but residents cannot access the snacks on their own. And the other one, team members can respond to requests for something to eat around the clock, but our kitchen isn't open at night and options are then more limited. So, getting rid of institutional practices actually means residents should have easy access without asking. Culture change leaders do not have their kitchens closed at night. In fact, that statement comes from a story where I got to hear an administrator say to his team, "Those residents live here, this is their home, that is their kitchen, so you get food for them whenever they want it." Man, I want to live there.
What are the dining practice standards, the eat-in alternative, domains of well-being, bathing without a battle? Since many homes and communities may not be familiar with these important concepts, we're providing on the Pioneer Network website resource pages some links to the information. It would be a good idea for the Culture Change Committee to learn about these practices and discuss them together, likely adding key personnel to the learning and discussion, such as dietitians, to the discussions on the dining practice standards.
Another question. Not waking residents is our policy and standard practice, but we do wake residents occasionally for appointments or upon their requests. So how do we answer? For this and many other items, there may be occasions that vary from your standard practice, so answer based on your policy and practice.
So a comment came in saying, our nurses' stations are remodeled, shorter, and very accessible. Our answer is this. Nurses' stations are a key marker of an institution, whether large or small, or tall or short. Nurses' stations are a very old practice brought over from hospitals when nursing homes were first developed. Many culture change leaders have entirely eliminated nurses' stations, using living rooms with lockable computer stations instead. This change makes the point that we are a community and not an institution. You can come talk to us anytime.
And another question, residents and families can use the microwaves, coffee makers, washers, and dryers if requested, but they are not documented amenities. Is this partially implemented? Well, residents need to be welcomed and introduced to amenities such as these. Having to ask before accessing an amenity is actually institutional. And if you didn't know, CMS has added some very strong language to their resident rights section, which now says, your home must protect and promote the rights of the resident. This really fits with what we're promoting here, to be more proactive and intentional to help smooth the transition to now living in a nursing home or assisted living. In fact, psychologists say that such a move is really the hardest thing anyone will ever do. All the more reason to consider these practices.
Carmen and I want you to know that there are a set of 5 videos that we have placed on the Pioneer Network website. In addition to this one that you're viewing now, the others are these: the Artifacts of Culture Change Original and 2.0, What's the Difference? Introduction to Artifacts of Culture Change 2.0, Introduction to Artifacts of Culture Change for Assisted Living, and How to Complete the Artifacts Tools.